All right.
All
Hey,
right.
hey, hey, and we're live. Welcome to Happy Hour.
Let me grab my
What do you got
drink.
there?
Box.
Oh, okay. And what are we drinking today, Blake?
I like to go on a little rainy day with a refreshing White Claw.
I didn't tab you for being the White Claw guy.
I know. I've
I,
got this light in the fridge as well, but these are just too good.
well, I resorted to the Jim Beam diet. So because this is probably only going to be 30 minutes to an hour, I'm safe. Where if I was doing the real happy hour and at a trade show that, the drinks would carry over into later in the night, it would probably be something like a vodka soda water. So
Right.
anyway, let's do a quick introduction. I'm excited about this very new adventure, I guess, if you want to call it that, where I'm doing the happy hour live with Ronnie Phillips and friends. And my first guest is Blake Brock. Blake is the managing partner of Digio Labs. Of course, Blake, I'm going to have you kind of introduce yourself here in just a little bit. But Blake, you can kind of talk to about, as it talks there in the caption, what it is that you do for Digio Labs.
Yeah, so we work with small and medium-sized businesses, revenue anywhere from 10 million to about 500 million, who want to do one of three things. They want to launch a new business, they want to launch a new technology product, or they want to launch a new technology service. Or on the flip side, they have one of those three that is not working very well and they can't figure out why. So we go in and help them build out their strategic roadmap from innovation to blueprint to build to launch. And that could be anything from a tech product to a marketing program.
Okay. Cool. So if anybody would like more information and they'd like to be able to contact Brock or Blake, rather, you can see the email there, Blake@digiolabs.com. Also, Blake is very active on LinkedIn. So, hey, so look, this is nothing. I don't want to make this too formal, but I did create some talking points. And the reason that I wanted to bring Blake onto this very first episode, Blake and I actually met each other a couple years ago through my brother-in-law, or now brother-in-law. As a matter of fact, we were celebrating my now brother-in-law's bachelor party. And his name is Michael Burns, and Michael and Blake went to college together. And during the process of that weekend, Blake and I had the opportunity to, spend some time together and discuss our ventures. And I really found myself to gravitate to Blake because I felt like we were like-minded in a lot of ways. He's very driven and motivated when it comes to business. He's very innovative, very forward-thinking vision, and it was something that I highly respected about Blake. And so I felt like to start something new here in my effort to keep my brands relevant during a time of quarantine. And I wanted to bring Blake in because I think that he can touch on a lot of topics that a lot of businesses are struggling with, including my own. And so naturally, there's a lot of uncertainty and fears that are going on with everything surrounding the coronavirus. So as we kind of dive into this, and I guess you kind of talked about this already, Blake, as far as who your target clients are and examples of which that you service them. You kind of hit on that. But let's jump into the next thing, which is what's been the impact of this COVID-19 on our businesses and some of our clients? And I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so it hit hard and it hit fast. In the very first week, we had our first client basically call a meeting with our team and let us know, hey, you guys are doing great work, but we're down 90% in daily sales, and we can't continue to work with you until this all passes. And we looked at that and thought, okay, this is probably going to be a pattern. Let's think through how we take that in and then prepare for that shift. And we guessed right. We had about half of our contracts either suspended at the finish line or suspended during engagement. And that can sometimes kill a business, but we're lucky. We can be very agile. And we still had a good core of companies that we were working with. So we didn't have to let any of our contractors, subcontractors go. And what we did was look at what was happening. Companies were put into this standstill. They weren't going to spend money. They needed to wait and see what would happen over the next week or two. And we decided at that point, we're going to start adding value universally for free. And we launched a series of different services to our prospects, our clients, our partners. And anyone that we could engage and did engage, we did free 1-hour consults. We offered to start projects for the first 2 hours for free. We put free content out there. We gave away our marketing growth platforms. We taught a class for Enterprise University. We did all these things knowing that people, while they didn't want to spend money, they were more active than ever in digital channels, and they were willing to consume these things that normally they wouldn't have time for. Mm-hmm. And if you look at what's happened really over the last 7 to 10 days, at least for us and our clients, there's been one other big shift where people have said, okay, we may not be stable, but we can see this. This isn't the proper word, but it's almost this land grab where people recognize the opportunity to spend money on marketing and advertising, to put themselves out there and position themselves for maximum growth when we come out on the other side. And since that shift happened, while we're not in the advertising space, we have been able to get new contracts in place for companies looking to invest in growth. Mm-hmm. So it's been this kind of total drop off, and then stable at the bottom, and then we've kind of shot right back up. We haven't really been busier than the last week. It's been great.
And how's that equated? And I think you kind of mentioned that, but it hasn't really equated to dollars as much as it's equated to potential new business as we get through this, or retention.
Exactly. For us, we were talking about this today. It doesn't matter how many contracts we have or how many projects we finish, if at the end that client, that partner can't say that was valuable. Mm-hmm. So to add value has been the number one thing, whether it's under contract or not. Putting that value out there builds those relationships.
Yeah. And, for me and what we are doing at the commercial cleaning business, the number one reply that I get from my friends when they say business is shut down, you're not making any money right now. They don't understand that while I felt like let me turn that off. While I was trying to create diversity, or what I thought was diversity with our clientele. So for example, we might do a concept over here called Top Golf. And we clean a concept over here called Power and Light District. We clean 7 or 5 different movie chains across the East Coast. So we're thinking, oh man, we tap around, restaurants, we're tapping into all these different entertainment venues, all of which that require public assembly. And how in the world could anybody forecast a pandemic that was going to shut down the entire country? So because of that, that is the reason why, if there's not foot traffic going into any of these venues, then they don't need to, they don't require our services. So, but what it has done has allowed us some downtime to have communication, much like you were talking about with your clients, for a retention standpoint, to make sure that they understand that there's never been a more important time than right now to focus on cleaning, where sometimes cleaning can kind of be the non-sexy thing in your business, and it's kind of pushed over here, and you only really address it when you really have to. Well, now's the time where you really have to address it. It also has been good because not only are you addressing that, you're actually having more time with your client, which is allowing you to massage relationships if you're doing it effectively. And that's one of the things about our business that we've really strived to do, is making sure that not only are we providing quality service and we are offering that thorough communication, but we also give that client the feeling of a genuine relationship. Because I feel like that goes a long way in the retention side, but everybody's personalities are different, and not every client wants to take the time for their cleaning company. Now they don't have a choice. So it gives us the opportunity to get to know them better, sit down, talk about ways that when business starts to open back up, what could we be doing collectively together? Because it's going to be more important than ever for all of these venues, whether it's restaurants, any kind of entertainment venue, that they work in collaboration with their cleaning vendor, because the venue are going to need to be promoting cleaning. They're going to need to be promoting to their clientele, giving them the peace of mind that, hey, we are on top of this. We recognize the difference between disinfecting and sanitizing, which that's a whole nother topic we can get into later. But it also then shows that venue that, hey, we can't just put this all on the shoulders of our vendor. This is now going to have to be a two-way street of communication and collaborative effort. So while this sucks, I mean, I think we can all agree this whole process has been terrible. some good has come out of it if you put yourself in the right frame of mind to find the positive in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the most important things when I think about your business, and movie theaters and restaurants and venues like Topgolf, where this has literally put them at a standstill, what an opportunity for you to add value through sharing content on platforms and channels that they consume it on, to line yourself up as a value-added partner when this is all over. They're going to be looking for someone to come in, and if you're the one that's built the relationship over the 4 or 8 or maybe 12 weeks, what a great opportunity that you've created by putting value and content out there.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, and that's part of the reason for doing these live streams. And I had been promoting that this stream was going to also take place on LinkedIn. And just as I hit click live, I got a notification that says, oops, LinkedIn says you're not approved for LinkedIn Live, which I didn't know. And so I'm going to have to figure out all of that. All the growing pains of doing something new, but I'll have to dig into that for the next broadcast, and we'll bring you back and do this again. So the next talking point here that I've got is and I guess we've kind of talked about this already in just some of the things we previously discussed, but just innovative strategies that we've implemented in efforts to combat the effects of COVID-19.
Yeah. So outside of kind of what I've already discussed with prospects, I think a good example is what we're doing with current clients. Whatever the current engagement includes from a project standpoint. So sometimes we're in the phase where we're building out a software platform for them, or we might be in the stage where we're working on a marketing or go-to-market plan with them. We might be in the very beginning. We're about to kick off a whole new innovation lab with one of our clients. One thing that we're stressing is, hey, we know we've got this going on, and we want to also make sure that you're doubling down on looking for opportunities right now. There have never been more opportunities for businesses to look for gaps and holes. There's one thing for sure in all of this uncertainty, and that's that whatever the normal was before, it's going to change. And no one knows how, but you can look at your industry and you can start to see, okay, here's something that's happening now that never happened before. And here's something that used to happen all the time, and now nobody's touching this. And I'll give you an example, and maybe you can think about the commercial cleaning world. In the transportation and logistics space, they are almost a decade behind in digital transformation. You have these big dogs like Uber and Amazon who are investing billions of dollars to disrupt and innovate in that space. But most of the market is on the other side. 95% is on this other side of innovation. And sometimes you're lucky if they have more than dial-up internet. But they're moving and pushing. I think it's a $40 billion industry, something along that line, that still has yet to go through the digital transformation cycle. Mm-hmm. They're one of the biggest laggers in that transition. And overnight, transportation and logistics clients are now using video conferencing tools. Overnight, transportation and logistics companies can work remote. Overnight, they've moved accounting to the cloud. Overnight, they've moved everything to the cloud. They've been dragging their feet for a decade, and now in a matter of 2 weeks, they made that transition.
Right. What would you say, and I don't know that I have the right answer other than just finding, willing participants to invest, but I think that in a time of crisis like this is when there's the argument, are leaders born or are they made? And regardless of what your opinion is of that, leaders do come out of times like this because it has challenged them to be innovative and creative in ways that they otherwise wouldn't have had to be. And so the part of the struggle that I have had in this process is that I naturally want to be innovative, and I'm, humbly speaking, somewhat creative. But I've never faced a pandemic before. And so I tried to enter this whole process with the idea of perspective, patience, innovation. But the problem is that I often wanted to put innovation before the patient side. I would be getting anxiety and creating stress upon myself, maybe even to the level of near depression, because I couldn't figure out ways to be innovative. Or and this goes back to where I was originally about to say, was when I would think that I had an innovative thought, I knew that because of the crisis in how quick we would need to turn something around to capitalize, and it sounds terrible to say trying to capitalize on the idea of a pandemic, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Trying to turn a positive into negative is really what I'm trying to say. I would have to have the capital involved in order to put the wheels in motion. And so what are your thoughts is if somebody who is an aspiring entrepreneur, somebody who's sitting at home and and they just have this light bulb that goes off, because I think it's the start that stops most people. If you know what I mean, like if somebody's got an idea and they want to do, oh my gosh, I've got to do that. I don't know how to do this, or I don't know if I want to do this much work to get into it. So before they can even start, they stop. If somebody had an idea and they wanted to push that idea through, how would they get started from a capital standpoint? Where would they even go?
Yeah. So if you're talking about someone who is not already a business owner and doesn't have any sort of seed capital themselves to work with, is that where you're looking?
Well, I'm saying like, even if you do have a certain amount of capital, like we as a business, we've got capital, we've got, money tucked away. But and I'm not going to show my cards here on this, but if I wanted to, really go full fledged into something like this, plus there's that fear of how long is this thing going to carry on? So do I need to be holding on to this capital because we don't know how long this process is going to extend? So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is to anybody who's got the entrepreneurial spirit or wants to put themselves in that position, they've got an idea of something that could be useful or effective in today's society, but they don't really have the funds to get started. I know there's Kickstarters and things like that, but what would you say to that person who might have the idea, just to maybe provide a little motivation or inspiration for somebody who might be watching this?
Sure. So first of all, I would say there's a term thrown around all the time in our industry and across industries called MVP, which is a minimum viable product. That works whether you're talking about, hey, I've got this idea for a website, or hey, I've got this idea for this technology tool, or hey, I've got this idea for this new service model and how we could actually close the gap on commercial cleaning. It's something that no one's doing right now. You don't have to go all in from the beginning. We always encourage people to think about what the lowest barrier of entry might be to build a minimum viable product or service and to go and test that in the marketplace. So behind the scenes of any successful product or service or company, typically there has been a long run of product market fit testing, consumer testing, user testing to make sure that what is in my head actually matches what consumers and customers are going to want to pay for. Before we do anything for anybody, we have a series of secondary market research and then primary market research and then user research that we go through. And while that's very formal, you can really do that on your own. Mm-hmm. Let's just use a website because I just know that space so well. You have a website that's going to do, you're going to sell furniture in a brand new way. And you think you figured out how you can reach the perfect customer quicker and more cost effective than people have been doing it in the past. So in order to do that, you don't even have to build a website. If you think that your secret sauce, your magic is in how you're going to reach the customers and the way that you're going to sell it, really has nothing to do with the website itself. You can take that concept to people that you think would buy it, whether it's a business or a group of users or individual users, and you can talk to them about that concept. Hey, I've been thinking, or you can even formalize and say, hey, I'm building this product or I'm building this company. We're going to sell furniture by categorizing it into 3 different sections and selling it in fractional shares. Totally made up. But you have that conversation with them, get their feedback, and from that feedback, you can say, all right, 60% of people that we talked to out of 25 said, yep, I would buy that. All right. I can take that now as proof that there's some opportunity there, and I can do one of 2 things. I can go recruit someone to partner with me and build the website, or I can take it to like an angel investment group or to a business that might want to partner who has that capital. and kind of pitch them and say, look, here's the research I've done. I think that there's an opportunity here. Are you willing and able to pursue this with me?
Very interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't as far as about my business and your business. This could be affecting a lot of other. Is that Callie?
Yes.
Hey, Callie. I wanted to make sure that anybody that could be watching this and it might be affecting their business or their aspirations as a entrepreneur, that we were as relatable as we possibly could be. Moving on, I know one of the things that you are really big into, there we go, is prior even to the COVID-19 is networking groups. I got to be honest with you, Blake. I have not had good experience, and I don't want to say bad. They haven't been bad experiences. They just haven't been good experiences. I'm not going to call them out because there's good people that run them. But whenever I've been involved with a networking group, I've never been able to find the value in it as it pertains to any of my business ventures. Now there are, and look, I'm involved in network marketing or multi-level marketing. I've done it for a few years. I personally enjoy it. I think I've been able to take some of the things that have come from that industry and applied it to creativity and things that I'm doing on business development with any of my other ventures. But I feel like that a lot of those networking groups are sometimes just network marketers. Hey, look, this month we're featuring this person and they sell earrings or they sell perfume or whatever it might be. And I'm wanting to reach out to, the big corporate people that are in operations, that are into facilities, as it applies to the cleaning business. You have found tremendous value in networking groups. So kind of speak to your experience in attending networking groups prior to COVID-19 and what you are doing to stay in contact or to network during COVID-19.
Sure. So I'll kind of split it out when it comes to value. There are two types of value, I think, when it comes to networking. There's the value that we think we're going to receive, and then there's the value that we actually receive. Every time that I've joined a networking group in the professional rank, whether it be a young professional group or an executive group or a technology, whatever it might be, in most cases, the relationships that you make there are not going to lead to direct business, but you do grow out your network through those groups, especially the more involved that you get. So over the last 7 years, I've been involved with, 10, 12, 15 different groups, and I'm probably active in 3 or 4 of them, but I maintain contact in the rest. In fact, I run a separate group as of this year. Oh, wow. And I think the value that I look to get now is to build my network of business friends. And what I mean by that is they might not be at your birthday party and they might not come to your kid's birthday party, but when they're out in the marketplace and let's say they sell insurance, they're talking to one of their clients who happens to be the Royals, and the Royals happen to be looking for a new commercial cleaning partner. Then they know, oh, wow, I have someone that I can introduce you to. You've got to meet Ronnie Phillips. I'll make an email intro and then we're grabbing lunch. That never happens overnight. It takes years to get to that point. And think about this. It's true fish. It's true fishing, right? You don't know when the bite's going to happen, but you have to have your line in the water to catch a fish. So it's very much in line with that. I've had relationships with certain people in business for truly 7 years that it's just never come to. We've never been able to give each other business, but we stay in contact. We meet regularly because at some point it's going to happen. Right. And I would say I'm selective about who I build those relationships with. And it sounds silly, but there's probably about 200 people that I feel that way about in Kansas City. And those are brand champions for you. Now, the big difference is if for me, where my market is pretty much the Kansas City metro, we have certain projects outside of that space. If you're looking for business on a national scale, a local networking group is not going to do it for you, right? But one thing that I know we've talked about is there are LinkedIn groups, huge LinkedIn groups, national groups, where the more content you put out there and tag it with, let's say it's commercial cleaning. If you can get enough attention on that post, and then you can do that regularly enough, you start becoming a thought leader. People start saying, oh gosh, I need to get to know who Ronnie is. I'm going to connect with him, start a conversation. And it sounds a little bit like online dating, because it kind of is, but it's for business. I think that's one way to do it on a national scale for networking.
Interesting. And so what have you been doing? I mean, is that primarily then what you have been putting your focus in now that you can't attend and, in public assembly with any of these networking groups? You are either, I guess it's LinkedIn, really? Is that pretty much where?
Right. Yeah. Our clients are almost exclusively on LinkedIn. I'm sure that they have Facebooks and Instagrams, but it would be very awkward for them to engage with us on their personal pages.
Right.
And so we're out there. We're doing a lot of live events. We're doing a lot of free consults. Like I said, we did a live class. We had, it wasn't huge, but we had around 20 participants in that. We're building out our plan for a podcast. Things like your program here, I think, are huge, and the timing is so perfect for this to just be valuable and for you to create that following for your business. And what a great example for anyone listening live or listening afterwards to look at you and saying, okay, this didn't have to cost $5,000. He went out and he bought StreamYard and recruited a couple of people to start it off and put together, the production, and it's working. And people
I hope it works. That's the point of all of this anyway. And I've got 20 some years of radio experience. Before I go any further, I know that there are people that are coming in and coming off. There is an opportunity for you guys to comment or ask questions. We would love for you to engage in this podcast as we're getting ready to end get to the end of this here shortly. But would love for anybody who has any questions or comments for Blake or myself, feel free to chime in. But yeah, the point of all this is, after 20 some years of doing radio, leaving radio to start the TV show, still doing the TV show, but able now with the time that was available to me to dabble into other business ventures. I was always told, Ronnie, you should do a podcast. And I just felt like, dang, at the time, podcasts, of course, it seems like podcasts didn't really start booming until the last 5 years. Prior to that, it was like, I think people looked at podcasts, or people who did podcasts, as kind of a nerdy thing. And I could be completely wrong about that, but I can tell you that as a 44-year-old, I didn't listen to podcasts until the last couple of years. Because I think the content that was out, I mean, let's face it, Joe Rogan made podcasts cool. I mean, there was some good podcasts out there, but he really took it to a whole nother level that said, oh, now that's pretty neat. Look at the content, look at the interviews, look at the things that they're talking about. And so I never really wanted to be a follower. And I didn't really have the passion to do it. It wasn't until I came across this platform where I was like, this is kind of like a podcast, but it's hitting people instantly. It's live. And if they don't catch it live, it's archived. Whether, in this particular platform, it's going to be saved on my Facebook page. It's going to be saved in Periscope and in YouTube. It's supposed to be saved in LinkedIn. We'll get to that hopefully by next week. But it's like doing a podcast with a production. So with a live production. So I'd like to see where it goes. I'm excited about it. The next question I guess I'll ask you is, and I asked this timidly because Kirk Herbstreit, we all know who he is. And Kirk had he went on Twitter and said that he doesn't see how in any way, shape, or form there's going to be a college football season in 2020. And of course, that was like a month ago or 3 weeks ago when he said it. And I couldn't believe he said it. I'm thinking to myself, unless he knows something that I don't know or the rest of the world doesn't know, like, you're a sports analyst, you are not a doctor, you don't work for the government, you aren't on the COVID-19 task force. Why in the world would you make such a deflating prediction? That being said, I'm going to ask you your forecast. And there is some comments coming in. We'll get to those in just a minute. I see Jay has chimed in here, so we'll get to that in just a second. But what's your best educated guess on when businesses will reopen?
And
again, we're not doctors, we're not on the task force, but based on the information that you read, you're an intelligent guy. You try to stay informed. You watch the news. What do you think? If you were a betting man?
If I were a betting man, and I am,
and I know you are, and you split face cards at the blackjack table, which you're not supposed to do. It's happened to me. You sit in one chair in front of me. I'm like, what are you doing? You won, and I got screwed.
You did. You had a lot more money out there than I did too.
Yes, I did.
It looks like in some capacity, if I were a betting man, mid to late summer, that things start to open back up. I think I saw today that May 1st and May 15th is when people are projecting that will be the stay at home will be extended to. So if you think about that, and maybe the stay at home has moved back again. So let's just say June 1st is when things start looking up. How long does it take to reopen? Who's still there to reopen? How do they reopen? What sorts of new regulations are in place? How do they serve the public? Is there a maximum on capacities within restaurants and places like Topgolf? And it's interesting that, like at the grocery store, some of that is in place, right? So you see masks and gloves, and sometimes you see 6-foot spacing. How does that affect smaller spaces, like some of our favorite local restaurants? How does that affect? I think Topgolf's a great one. Are we going to go meet up to play around at Topgolf with 10 people? Probably not. So I think you're going to see this slow curve back to what the new normal is. And outside of that, I don't know how long the curve is going to take to kind of mature and get us to that long-term future.
Mm-hmm. That's probably the more realistic answer as a betting man. I'm a little bit more aggressive better. As you know, we just talked about that. I try to look at it from the standpoint, like, we've been in quarantine for roughly 30 days, right? Because I think it was right around St. Patrick's Day, I think, or right before that. They kind of started promoting the stay-at-home order. And so I feel like now, based on the information that I'm seeing, and obviously, there are some locations that are different than others, but I feel like that we're now kind of just on the backside of that apex. So it took us 30 days to get there. Maybe you've got information that would dispute that, but based on what I'm seeing, I feel like that we've kind of hit the pinnacle, and we're just now, it's just gradual, very, very gradual, but we're very gradually starting to work our way down. Granted, it's going to take some time. There's always a bigger ramp up than there is going down, right? And so that allows me to think it took us 30 days to get to the top of that apex. Now we can expect at least another 30 days, maybe another 45 to 60. And so my hope is that by sometime June, the beginning of June, late May at the earliest, that we can get things back going. I just don't see it being any earlier than the end of May.
Yeah, I hope it is. I hope it is earlier for everyone's sake, whether it's a small business owner or, I don't know if you want to get to questions or if you want to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay jumped on here. I know Jay works with Apex. He does high efficiency windows. He's a good friend of mine. He's an avid waterfowl hunter as well. So I appreciate Jay jumping on here through Facebook. Says, if you had to double down on one way to get your message heard right now in the social media space, which one is it?
And I'm going to answer it in two ways because I want to make sure I understand the question fully. Doubling down. So right now in the social media space now, which one is it? If you're talking platform in your space, I think Facebook is the ideal platform. You said it's residential windows, right?
I don't know the exact. Yeah, from what I understand, he does mostly residential.
Okay, so all of those customers are going to be right there on Facebook. And I actually read a very interesting story yesterday that there are a lot of those home improvement companies. So anything from exterminators to fence companies to windows, doors, siding. You want to get a pool installed. All of these things that have to do with the home. Consumers are sitting there racking up lists of things that they want to do as soon as they can start allowing people safely into their home. And I don't know the ins and outs of window installments, but I assume there are a lot of consumers that are worried about having teams in their home. So right now, everyone is actually doubling down on things like Facebook ads in your space to make sure that they're lined up as that vendor of choice for consumers looking to do home improvement projects as soon as we come out the other side.
Interesting. I'm going to take that to another level. And again, if you're watching, we got a few people still watching online. If you would, like Jay, would like to chime in and make a comment or a question, we'd love for you to do so. We highly encourage it. So I actually, and this is probably going to sound really stupid, but I didn't have a choice at the time. I was trying to get more aggressive with Google Ads since the beginning of the year. We'd done some stuff, but not super aggressive. And I was starting to get a lot more aggressive. When, and of course, like any business, you have your marketing budget, you got all these different budgets. So I knew what my budget was, and I was putting a lot, if not a majority of my budget in that. It was just kind of a new vision moving into the 2020 year. When all of this took place and businesses were shutting down, and because there was so much uncertainty, I pulled the plug on everything. Now, I felt like I kind of had that double-edged sword where I was like, okay, now might be more important than ever to be promoting this and advertising this. But am I wasting right now dollars because nobody's at work? People are furloughed. People aren't even getting emails. Their companies aren't even allowing people in facility director. I had a Zoom meeting with one yesterday. He's not even getting his emails. The company shut him down until they work through this. So I felt like while this is an important time to get the message out there and be putting those ads out there, a majority of these people aren't even searching for it. They're not looking. So what's your opinion on that then? I mean, I know Jay talked more about the social media space. As far as those who are putting marketing dollars into, like, say, Google Ads, and maybe even use it as an example as it applies to me, is it bad to be pulling back from that right now until we see that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel and then start it back up again?
Yeah, I think it's situational. So for Jay, his customers, they are looking for these things. They do want these things. It's a matter of timing. And instead of, interviewing face-to-face or whatever the normal process is, they're vetting different teams on social media and online. For you, Ronnie, if your ideal customer is an industry like restaurant or someplace, movie theaters, that requires public gathering, and for a fact, which we do know, that those folks were let go, and like in the case of AMC, for instance, they don't have email. They don't care how the theaters are being cleaned. So I think you were right to pull those funds. Mm-hmm. There may be, I don't know what the right answer is there, for when they come back, and who's the local theater here in Kansas?
So there's a couple of them, and it's interesting you mentioned AMC because they are, prior to all this, the biggest theater chain in the country. I mean, above and beyond. And that was mainly due to the acquisition a couple of years ago, so anyway, to answer your question, there's AMC and then there's B&B theaters.
Indeed.
And so we actually had done some business with Carmike Theaters prior to AMC acquiring them. I think it was 4 years ago or so. And then AMC pulled the plug because they had already had their relationships with their cleaning vendors. And so we lost all of that business. But the thing that sucks about this for them is that they bit off so much that now, because of this, it's a result of them biting off more than they can chew. And they are now filing for bankruptcy and will likely have to spin off these properties. I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, they're screwed. But it's just crazy how the world of business works when you're doing so well and they're thinking, man, if we could get these locations, we'll be the biggest company in the world. Then something like this comes on and completely destroys the empire that they're now. I don't know that it's going to completely destroy them. I'm sure that they've got some sort of outs through different investors and bankruptcy opportunities and things along those lines. But it's definitely a tough time for AMC.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And being a local company, you hate to see that.
Yeah.
I want to go back. I don't think I see any other questions in there right now. I want to go back to one thing that you asked that, you basically asked, hey, if you've got that entrepreneurial mindset and you have some kind of idea, what's the best way of pursuing that? I'm a huge fan of always asking what if, and whether it's in conversation like we're having or with one of our clients, you have to imagine that the barriers are removed and that if you tried something with no barrier to entry, how would you do it? What would be the most optimal way? Today, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, kind of work backwards. But we have an opportunity right now where everything is literally paused, where you can ask that question, what if? You can see these small problems. They don't have to be huge problems. You don't have to create the next Uber. You don't have to create the next Airbnb, but you can look for these small problems and say, what if we did that? And now more than ever, you have an opportunity to play in that sandbox with no backlash, with no side effects. You just get to kind of explore because things are changing, and regulations and limitations that existed 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, a lot of cases, they're not there now. People are available now more than they ever have been for questions. So we talked about coming up with an MVP concept, going out and having a conversation. People want to have that conversation now. Before, let's say you're talking to a COO, but he may not make time for you for 12 weeks. Well, he's probably a lot more available now than he was before all of this. So I would encourage everyone to, you don't have to have a groundbreaking, earth-shattering idea, but even if it's small, most of the most successful businesses that we see out there, they don't solve huge problems. They just solve small problems really well.
Well, heck, you could watch Shark Tank and see some of the things that those people are investing in.
Yeah.
And those people are making millions of dollars on the simplest idea. And it's not necessarily changing lives. I mean, some of the products, I don't want to discredit the show because it's one of my favorite shows out there, but not every new business idea is necessarily a genius idea. It's just a good idea that somebody actually took the time to execute.
Exactly. That last word is
execute.
The most important thing.
It is. And it's easier said than done, but it's once you've done it and look, do you have time or do you have another thing you got to jump into?
No, I am good actually.
Okay. Have you even been drinking? This is a happy hour. And I know you like to party.
I finished one.
While you were talking, I made a second drink.
Oh, crack open the lime.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to try the lime now. Very good. I mean, I might even have to make a third. I'm halfway through the second one.
I do have a funny story.
Okay. Yeah, please.
So we, at the beginning of quarantine, it's just my wife, Callie, and I that live together.
And she likes to party too.
Right. But we thought about the possibility of being stuck inside just the two of us for 4 weeks. We're like, that's really not a good idea for us. So we made the executive decision to move in with her cousin. And so we've had company this entire time.
Oh, really?
Right. We kind of moved into the basement, and there's, a home gym and a full suite down here and everything. It's been fantastic. But we've gone through a lot of alcohol.
I believe it.
Yeah. And so there's a liquor store right across the street that we've.
That's why you moved over there, because it's in close proximity to the liquor store.
And, after like the fourth or fifth time doing a curbside pickup, which also I think is very interesting, how quickly people adapted to that.
Genius.
We asked them, do you think we're alcoholics? I'm like, no, actually, this is very normal. But that one bottle of there's some Captain Morgan orange vanilla twist that somebody in the house, unnamed, was ordering. They're like, we never sold that before the last couple of weeks. Who's drinking all of that? And it's not me, but the liquor store knows this very well.
Oh man, I've got the opportunity to share some adult beverages with you and your wife, and you guys are both a blast. And so I can only imagine if your cousins, is it her cousin you said?
Her cousin.
Her cousin welcomed you all in with open arms, and they were welcoming the party. They knew what they were getting before they said, yeah, come on and bring the fun.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
Everyone works hard during the day, and then we have fun at night.
Well, good. Well, and I don't know as it applies. I mean, obviously you're your own boss, and that's kind of where I'm going to segue into the next thing. Is being your own boss, you probably get to set your own schedule as far as when you're having these Zoom meetings or whatever conference calls you're having. So kind of talk about personal development, because that was a big thing for me. Not that I ever really lacked. I guess I shouldn't say that. There were parts of my life that I did lack confidence, but I never really had the confidence to go out on a limb, to take a leap of faith, to say, hey, sink or swim, I'm going to do this. There she is again.
Sorry to interrupt.
You keep changing your clothes, Callie. What's the deal?
We have a
listen, if you want to be a part of the show, all you had to say was, hey, can I be a part of the show?
Blake already gave me a heart no.
Because you asked, right?
Yeah.
Well, we need to do another one of these where we can just sit down and have drinks together, like we're at the blackjack table.
I'm all in.
Mahomes looks good on you. I know that sounds really weird, but Mahomes looks good on you.
Thanks, Brett.
All right, see you later. Personal development. So you were obviously doing business development and running. You were actually vice president of business development for your last employer before you kind of left and decided you're going to go out on your own and do your own thing. Talk about what you have done in your life and what you've done in your profession to get the personal development or acquire that development that has put you in the position to where you were able to go out and take that leap.
It's a great question. So a couple of different things. One, I firmly believe and really have 10 years now believed that you have to have your own blueprint for success, and it's okay for it to change, but you need to know where you want to be a year ahead of today, 5 years ahead of today, and 20 years ahead of today. And you have to shoot for those things. And as opportunities come up, they don't have to be new job offers, or they don't have to explicitly be classes or personal development opportunities, but challenges in your life that you look at and say, that's going to get me closer to my 5-year goal. There are things I've done that I thought I could never do. But what that's taught me is, if I feel like I can't do it, if I feel like I'm not ready to do it, it's probably time to do it. And it's probably time to just dive in. And I'm probably going to fail, but that's okay, because then the next time I'll learn how to do it better. And that's taken a lot of different forms. For me, public speaking in the beginning, early 20s, I was awful. And then I was asked to give a big presentation. I'm like, I've never done this before. I don't know why you expect me to be able to do this, but dove in, and now I'm giving speeches and presentations and teaching classes
and enjoying it.
Yeah. Literally on a daily basis, which I didn't, as part of my blueprint, I didn't see happening, but it's okay. It's one of those things that changes, and you're like, I can add that in. So maintaining your own personal development blueprint, your own career blueprint, I think is huge. I don't know if I've ever turned down a meeting invite. So somebody, whether they're looking for a job or they were introduced to me by somebody else, or honestly, if somebody introduces me to CEO of a mid or even an enterprise company, those meetings can be scary. But even if you don't feel well that morning of, or you're nervous, you're like, I'm not ready to talk to the CEO of this $500 million company. Who am I? I'm in my 30s, and he's got 20 years on me. He's not going to find me valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But never backing down from those opportunities. And then, pardon my French, but just working your ass off every day. If you ever want to be your own boss, which I don't call myself my own boss. I like to think that I've got this whole team and we're all teammates. But
sure,
if you ever want to get to that point, I think you have to know how to do everything. And sometimes it really sucks. Like today really sucked.
Really?
I had to do, a project manager's job. I had to do a business analyst job. I had to do a pitch. I had to do all these things that normally in a 100-person company, there are individual roles. But sometimes when I've got this team of sometimes up to 15, 20 people, there's not capacity to pull someone in. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be willing at least to do all of those things. Doesn't mean you have to be good at them. I'm not great at any of those things, but I know I can do them.
Sure, man. You said so much there that I can relate to from just when going back even to my days in radio, because one of the first lessons I learned from, a person who's not even with us today, he told me, he was like, the way to keep yourself involved in this business is learn as much as you can so that you are valuable. And then that actually came true for me, because in 2008 or 7, when the recession during that time and companies were trimming fat and letting people go, and I was thankfully retained. Now, granted, I had 3 times as much more responsibility for the same salary that I was getting, but I had a job and I was able to pay my bills, and I had peace of mind in knowing that. But when I got to the point where I hit the ceiling, when I felt like I've accomplished as much as I feel like I'm going to accomplish in this industry, I have no regrets. I've learned a lot. I've networked and met some amazing people. I can find a way to parlay then all of this experience, not only in just the broadcasting industry, but just the connections and the network that I've got from it, into my pursuit in other business ventures and just kind of going out on my own. Granted, I left the radio station nearly 30 days from the day that my daughter was born. So if you can just imagine this, I am a 10-year radio personality at Q104, and I've somewhat not to the level of maybe the morning show and some of the other people at the radio station, or certainly even in the market. I had a little bit of a celebrity status, and so I was doing these appearances in the Power and Light District at PBR every Thursday and Friday night, and so I was living this kind of rock star lifestyle. And now I'm going to make this decision that I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to do my own thing. And in order for me to accomplish this, I'm going to have to make some real sacrifices. And as you said, work my ass off. And I literally left the radio station. The next day left for Saskatchewan, was gone 9 days, came home and was a stay-at-home dad with an infant child that was 30 days old or 39 days old, and never been a dad before. Didn't know what I was doing, and now I only know the 4 walls of my house.
Right.
And the most humbling experience I've ever experienced in my life. But then I'm trying to launch a business with the TV show, and I've got this baby who needs my attention nearly all the time, and the only time I can do work is when the baby is sleeping, or when at the end of the day when the wife and the baby are sleeping, and I'm working until 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And it could be the most meticulous little tiny things that today you look back on and be like, wow, I was putting a lot of time and value into those little tiny things, but it was the stepping stones to creating what I've been able to accomplish today.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to make this about me. It's just my story. And I could just relate to everything that you said about working your ass off. And it's so true. Like, it's very cliche in a lot of ways. You see celebrities saying it all the time. Like, if you want it bad enough and if you work hard enough, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before, but it's so true. It really is. It holds true. Like, if I got so sick and tired of being sick and tired of my particular situation that, and I had enough little naysayers and just little snickering going on in the background that would get back to me, that pissed me off enough to where I wanted to prove them wrong, that I was hell-bent to stay up till however late I needed to. Mm-hmm. Hell, I wouldn't sleep. There were sometimes I didn't sleep. Yep. And I would do whatever it took to prove them wrong. And I am, prior to the Rona, was in the best position I ever have been in my life. But I also have perspective when I talk about the beginning of this broadcast. Gosh, we're coming up on an hour already. Perspective, patience, innovation. The perspective I have is that, through this whole process over the last 7 years, I went from working and living paycheck to paycheck to now not making a dime. I haven't made anything in 30 days, not made $1. But I was fortunate enough to put myself in a position to where I was making money and I could put it away, to where I could cushion or absorb the issue here at hand. And there are some people that can't do that. Mm-hmm. I've got good health. My family's all healthy. My extended family, they're all healthy. Perspective. Now I just need the patience to wait this out, make smart decisions during this time, try to challenge myself to be innovative, to do different things. Hence this little broadcast that we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And take one day at a time and just make sure that I'm doing it in that order, because there are times when I want to put the innovation before the patience, and that's not a good combination. So
yeah, I love it. I think you're so right on the perspective thing. And I made a note with my marker here.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, and if anyone on the live stream hasn't seen Some Good News with John Krasinski, it's awesome. So John Krasinski, Jim.
I know the name, but I've never seen his content.
Okay, so he's Jim from The Office. If you've seen The Office,
I have.
Okay, so he decided that with everything going on, he was going to start a YouTube news channel that only focused on the good right now and kind of gave people hope and put the light at the end of the tunnel for anyone that was feeling like they couldn't see the forest through the trees. And it's so great. It's like 15 to 20 minutes a segment, and he goes and shows, hey, even despite all of the bad going on right now and people losing jobs and people struggling, and there's a lot of good and there's a lot of happiness, and he highlights that and just the best way. And so whether you're watching for business or personal, or one of us or whatever it might be, definitely go out and watch Some Good News. I promise it'll make you feel better, whether you're already feeling good or you're not feling great.
Now, do you start watching this after a couple drinks or prior, or does it matter?
Last night I didn't have any drinks, and
okay. I'm joking, obviously, but
but it's just so good. It's such a feel good story.
All right, listen, we're up. We've been doing this. We talked about 30 minutes was going to be long enough, and we went 30 minutes longer than that. So I've got one last talking point.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so I'm a huge Kansas State fan, and obviously this is streaming on my social platforms. I'm not sure if this platform takes the stream and puts it on your platform. I'm guessing it doesn't. Maybe it does. But I am a huge K-State fan, and one of the most respectful KU fans that I ever met was Blake Brock. And we actually celebrated his best friend and my brother-in-law's bachelor party in Lawrence, which I thought was going to be incredibly painful. And it was on Sunday morning. But it, other than that, it was a great time. And we have obviously that little in-state rival. So that being said, everybody's hyped up about Les Miles and maybe KU not being the cellar dweller of the Big 12. What are your thoughts on KU beating K-State in 2020, pending that there's an actual football season?
Sure. So we're replacing our quarterback. We've probably got the best running back in the Big 12.
Wow. You think that? I mean, you were like emphatic about that. He's good. He's good, but the best.
I think he's the best in the Big 12.
Okay.
We're losing two decent pros, probably our two best players, but we've got for us, a really good incoming freshman class. Last year's incoming freshman class was good, but I had us on a 3, 4, 5 win trajectory, where last year was 3, this year is going to be 4, next year is going to be 5. And we finally get to bowl eligibility the following year.
So in year 4 of Les's tenure, okay.
I think it'll finally be a respectable game, but I still don't think we have what it takes to beat K-State.
Okay. All right. You like Kleiman? I mean, you respect him.
Yeah, I love him. He reminds me, he's kind of got that like Bill Self type experience. Like he's got some kind of aura to him that despite coming, was it North Dakota State?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think he's going to be there for a long time.
I hope you're right. We'll see. We got another good year left with our starting quarterback, Skylar Thompson. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we'll see what happens. So, hey, man, as we get ready to wrap this up, then, is there anything that you want to talk about as far as Digio Labs is concerned? Let me go ahead and throw this up here one last time so that people know how they can get a hold of you. Blake is a very innovative person. I can tell you that just from the conversations I've had in the past. So if I have any credibility with my followers who are watching this, I have the utmost respect for Blake. He's innovative. He's creative. If this hasn't proved it to you, I don't know what else will. If you're looking to tap into a resource or somebody or a company that could offer you value that you don't in an area that you may not have knowledge, I think Blake and his company could do that. From there, I'll kind of turn it over to you and let you kind of, end it on what you and Digio Labs can offer.
Yeah. And I'll keep it easy. We're not trying to sell anything right now. What we are doing is for any business, whether it's a one-man shop or an enterprise business, we're doing free consults. So if you want to chat, if you want to talk to us about your business, what you're trying to accomplish and what our suggestions might be, we're doing 30 to an hour long consulting sessions for free, no strings attached. Also happy to chat via email or LinkedIn, and we'll never try to turn you into a customer unless you want to be.
So which means I'm going to get charged for 6 minutes and 40 seconds roughly because I've kept you a little longer than I was supposed to.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. This was awesome.
I appreciate it. I'm just going to finish up with my shameless plugs. As you guys know, I have a TV show along with my partners and would love for you to check it out on Sportsman's Channel. New season coming out in July, season 7. On Sportsman's Channel. For more information, you can find us on those social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth, or online at heartlandwaterfowl.com. We've been talking about commercial cleaning concepts quite a bit. If you are owning a business, if you work in facilities or operations, and you are really concerned about where you are going to go post COVID-19, we would love to talk to you about that. You can find our information. You can message me directly or find our website at cleaningbyc3.com. Also, you said you've been working out at home?
Yeah.
Or you've been working out at the store? Okay. So my wife and I just created through a network marketing company Zaya Active, the clothing wear that is high performance. It is amazing. It's comfortable. Women absolutely love it. And that's why I'm in it, because women like to spend money and they love to spend money on clothes. And so when I saw this, and it's not a saturated market, especially in the Kansas City market, I said, yeah, baby, let's do this. So if you would like more information about that, that is the link below. So, hey, man, I really do appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship and taking the time to share your knowledge and wealth, and have a couple drinks with me. This is a show that I'm wanting to do here for, I don't know, for as long as I guess people care to watch it. And I've already kind of vetted some people that along the way, some other entrepreneurs, some other radio personalities across the country, some other network marketers that have been, like 6 to 7 figure income earners in network marketing, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, record label reps, country music artists out of Nashville. So those are the kinds of people and the things that we're going to be discussing as we bring back Happy Hour with Ronnie Phillips and Friends. Blake, thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Ronnie. Good to see you.